Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuoki Kyoto Wins. Now today we are going to start on Susumu Yamazaki, because I believe since during Sanen's route we did a lot of things where we stayed at the base and such, I think Yamazaki and Sanen are going to share a lot of common route material, and there probably won't be all that many episodes for him. Probably 3, just like there was for Sanen, I imagine. And then I'll work on Nagakura. He might have more since you had to go out more for his route, I think. But I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, go along Yamazaki here. You can see the choices that I make along the way. And of course, we'll do skipping all of the previously read material. So if you're watching for the first time, please watch the walkthrough from the beginning, going through the whole list, because different character routes use different common route material. And it's just too much to read, you know, the same 3 hours worth of text over and over again for every storyline. So, yeah, I'm not rereading those 12 times each. So here we go, starting a new game for Yamazaki. Alright, from the very first choice, we start with Find a Way to Escape. Stay Put. Yeah, see all the same choices again. Wow, I had no idea. Quietly Return to My Room. Accompany Hijikata as his page. But this time we have to explain the situation. It's not as if I know the men of the Shinsengumi better than anyone else. I don't think all of the Shinsengumi men would ever behave like that other man did. He was just plain cruel. I'm sure you understand better than anyone, but out of all the warriors in the city, there are bound to be rotten eggs in the bunch.
I know. I don't think that man represents the Shinsengumi at all.
Now we're in Chapter 2, we have to remain in the compound. Yeah, definitely sharing a lot of Sanen's choices. Why me? I promised to give the message. Stay with Hijikata? Were you a patient? That's something new we'll get to hear from Iba. Were you a patient of my father? Iba looked a little forlorn by my response. I'm so sorry, I don't recognize you. Oh, I feel so bad I don't recognize him.
No. When I was a child, I was interested in Western studies, so I visited your father.
Oh, I see.
Don't worry, though. You'll be seeing more of me.
And this time I went to come to something new again. My mind was made up. I nodded to Harada. I want to help. I'd like to participate and help in some way.
All right. Thanks for letting me know. When the time comes, I'll be sure to back you up, so you could join us.
Okay. Several days later, excuse me. I carefully lifted the serving platter with tea for the captains and made my way to the common room.
Ah, thanks.
Thanks, Chizuru. Man, it's like you're our servant or something.
Well, I sorta am a little bit sometimes. I mean, well, I was a page as far as everyone knew. The thought to correct him crossed my mind, but instead I stayed silent and I passed the tea out. So not much different between a page and a servant.
Thank you, Yukimura. I feel bad asking you to do this.
Oh, it's nothing. After all, I'm Hijikata's page. I spoke barely above a whisper, but I know I smiled and nodded at me. Okita took a sip of his tea, and a mild grimace flickered across his face.
Was it too bitter for you?
Is something wrong with the tea?
The taste is fine, but it could be a little hotter. Maybe you're taking too long to pour it. But I guess I can expect this from you.
There we go. I'm sorry, I'll make a new batch right now.
Don't worry about it. I like it lukewarm. I could drink it immediately, right, Hajime?
Sure, right. I guess lukewarm tea isn't bad on a hot day like today.
Oh yeah, that's right. In that one scene, they said, it's better not to have hot tea on hot days. Room temperature tea is better. It was silent for a second before the door slid open, and Kondo arrived with a stern look upon his face.
The Shinsengumi has received an official request from the Aizu domain. All available soldiers must begin preparations to move out immediately.
Yeah!
It seems that the Aizu have finally noticed all the hard work we've been doing, men.
He looked just as happy with the news as the rest of them. Apparently, getting orders directly from the Aizu domain was an occasion for some excitement. Hijikata, however, was the lone exception.
We don't have time for this crap. Stop patting each other on the back and get moving. We need to go, now. The Choshu are already in Kyoto. We can't let them gain the upper hand on us.
As Hijikata rebuked the men, the warriors all scattered sequentially to their stations. Leave it to him to get things moving. When it was only the captains and myself remaining in the room, Hijikata vented.
What? So only when the Choshu attack Kyoto is everyone ready to go. This is crap.
Thinking back at what happened at Ikeda Inn, while the Shinsengumi were fighting hard, the Aizu domain was elsewhere and came strolling in way later at the scene. Remembering that incident, I feel like I can understand Hijikata at least to some extent. Okita and Toto will remain at headquarters. I doubt you'll like it, but, well, neither do I. Your injuries keep you from active duty, and so do mine. He rubbed his left arm absently and looked away.
Hey, speak for yourself. It's not like my injuries didn't recover or something. Well, I guess I'm not at 100% either. So, if you're telling me to sit this one out, I will.
You're making a big deal out of nothing. This is just a scratch. Kondo's being a wuss.
Okita acted as if he didn't hear Sanin at all, while Heisuke pouted.
You sure about that? Oh, last night you were crying like a baby.
You son of a bitch. Why'd you gotta rat me out? Is there even a heart in there, you old bastard?
But you did scream like a baby though, right? Right, Chizuru?
Hey, don't ask her. It'd be nice if you could keep your mouth shut for once, you know.
He glanced sideways at me. But Heisuke, it's true that your injury hasn't recovered. His bangs hid the scar rather well, but it still looked painful. Nagakura broke the awkward silence.
Oh yeah, Chizuru, you said you wanted to go with us if we got called in, right? You still up for that?
Even though I told Harada that I was into the idea of joining them, it still seemed a little risky. What's life without a few risks?
Ah, yes, well, I see no reason why not. After all, opportunities like this are seldom seen.
For some reason, Kondo was easy to convince. I wasn't expecting him to be so easily swayed.
What the hell? If she's tagging along, maybe it'd be a good idea for me to come too, right?
You're still all out of shape though, right? You stay behind at the compound. Ah, that's awesome, Chizuru.
Are you sure it'll be alright? Hijikata and Sanin sighed at the sight of my reservations, which was understandable.
We can't promise you won't get hurt, or worse. You should stay here.
Do you wish to place undue burden on the Shinsengumi? We are not here to entertain you.
Jeez, who'd have thought they'd both gang up on me like this?
Colonel Sanin, can I take that to mean, so long as she is not a burden, she is free to accompany us?
I blinked. Saito standing up for me? Sanin seemed nearly as surprised as I was.
You can't be saying that you're actually in favor of bringing her along.
Saito simply shrugged.
She was an asset to Ikeda. I only intended to point out that, judged by her actions, she has hardly proven to be a burden.
Never in a million years would I have imagined that Saito might have a word of praise for me. My eyes grew wide with elation, and Kondo nodded in agreement.
Excellent. I will take full responsibility for your inclusion. That is, of course, if you still wish to participate.
If Yamazaki's going? Sanin still didn't seem convinced. I looked around the room until my eyes met Okita's.
Do whatever you want to do, so long as you get that we're going to a battle, not a party.
It looked like I wasn't about to get any help from Okita, who looked nonplussed either way. Perhaps I'd be able to help them out like I had during the battle at Ikeda Inn. That's the plan. I nodded. Yes, I would like to participate. After that, everything was a blur. As quickly as we could, we prepared for battle and marched to the Fushimi Magistrate's office. There were a number of Kyoto Judiciary Commissioner's men gathered there as well, in preparation for battle with the Choshu. Walking proudly in front of the men, Kondo approached the government official near the gate.
We, the Shinsengumi, are reporting as requested by Lord Katamori Matsudaira, the Lieutenant General of the Aizu.
Katamori Matsudaira was the lord of the Aizu domain, and also the Kyoto Military Commissioner, which made him a very important person. His name would have been immediately recognized. The man standing near the gate looked slightly taken aback by the mention of the Shinsengumi.
You were told to report here? But we received no such orders.
No, that didn't make any sense. What? Perhaps sensing my confusion, Saito leaned over and whispered under his breath.
If they haven't received notice of our orders, lines of communication are likely in disarray.
Do you mean the Choshu is overpowering the shogunate's forces?
Not necessarily. However, I do suspect the enemy to be doing well.
This could be tricky. The Judiciary Commissioner and the Military Commissioner had similar organizations, but they operate very differently. The Military Commissioner's office was under the jurisdiction of the Aizu domain, while the Kuwana domain controlled the Judiciary Commissioner. I didn't fully understand the relationships between each domain, but so far as I knew, the Aizu and Kuwana weren't quite fond of one another.
Nonetheless, our assistance has been formally requested. If you could only speak to our supervisor... It wouldn't make much difference. Now get! We have no use for the Mibu wolves.
You dick. How terrible. And after they'd asked for the Shinsengumi's help. I felt Harada's hand on my shoulder and turned to look up at him.
Forget about them. This isn't anything to make a fuss about. We get this sort of crap all the time.
But this is so galling. I wasn't truly a member of the Shinsengumi, but even so. After living with the Shinsengumi men and watching how they worked, I couldn't bear to see how they were treated, which is why it felt wrong to me. Everyone at the Shinsengumi has worked so hard to maintain peace in Kyoto. How could these people, who are supposed to be our allies, turn us away without a second thought?
I appreciate the gesture, but I'm gonna need you to toughen up for me if you can. If we throw a fit here, then we might hurt the Aizu's reputation. You get it?
Oh. The Kuwana would only need to complain that the Shinsengumi hadn't showed them proper respect to make trouble for the Aizu. All of the men, including Harada, understood what needed to be done, and they endured.
There's nothing we can do here, Chief. We shall leave the magistrate alone and meet with the Aizu domain's men on our own.
Man, I love Saito so much. Saito's suggestion to Kondo was rudely interrupted by Takeda. We don't need your input, Takeda.
Us leave? What's the point of ignoring a military command on the battlefield? Chief, everyone knows that messengers get delayed during war. Leaving now would be foolish. I think we should remain here on standby. If this location were a camp to which we were stationed, then maybe you'd be making sense. Unfortunately, it is not, and it would be wise for us to act in the best interest of the Shinsengumi. Do you dare oppose my opinion? An opinion, mind you, from the Shinsengumi's war counselor. Cool it. Saito brings up a good point.
Kondo nodded deeply as he glanced at Saito.
We, the Shinsengumi, will officially look for the camp that the military commissioner is constructing.
And with that, the Shinsengumi set off to find the soldiers of the Aizu domain. Night had fallen by the time we arrived at Kujo Beach. After leaving the Fushimi magistrate's office, we made for the Aizu manor. Upon arriving, we relayed our previous encounter and asked for new orders. The major branch official we met with directed us to Kujo Beach, which we did. However...
What? The Shinsengumi is to join us? We received no such order. I apologize, but could you please speak with the commander at the men...
Nagakura seemed to tolerate no more of this.
What the hell? He was the one who told us to come here, goddammit!
We're not just gonna keep bouncing back and forth between places.
You want to screw us over? Fine. But you're gonna be disobeying a direct order from your superior, pal. You really want to do that? Please, calm down. I don't know what you...
The man flinched and shivered, then fell silent. Kondo did his best to assume a professional air, but there was no hiding his massive grin.
I would like to speak with your commanding officer. Do you think you might be able to take me to him?
At last, after a great deal of trouble, we were allowed to remain with the troops at Kujo Beach. The chief and the captains left the rest of us to speak with the Aizu commanders. They returned some time later, looking tired and drained. Inoue, who'd gone with them, also wore a bitter sort of half-smile.
Well, it would seem that the men stationed here are reserves, and not the main force of their army. Their main force has been committed to the defense of Hamaguri Gate.
They're treating the Shinsengumi like reserves?
Then why the hell did they send us a message acting like there was some sort of emergency?
We can't predict what might happen. Battle may soon approach us. There's little to do but wait.
So, all we can do is wait. There was a chance that the call could come at night, so the men stayed awake, ready to act.
Just let us know if you need the rest of it, Chizuru. You're always welcome to sleep on my lap.
How can I resist an invitation like that? But no, it's not Harada's route. And not like I get a choice anyway. Oh no, I'm fine. Harada laughed and I shook my head. It wouldn't be fair of me to be the one to sleep. The men had to remain alert, anticipating that they could face death at any moment. Anxiety wrapped around me until I slept near dawn. The men, however, were vigilant through the night. Even as I drifted in and out of consciousness, I could see them nearby, persisting against the night. The break of dawn burned my eyes as I heard it. A cannon? The crack of a gunshot tore through the morning air, and in the distance I heard men shouting and the clang of metal. The fighting had begun. The captains looked at one another and nodded.
It's time we left.
Let's hurry to the battle. I stared at him for a moment, perhaps not yet fully awake, until I understood what he was saying. Right. With a quick nod, I readied myself to go, then...
Stop. What do you think you're doing? We were ordered to stay here. Did you just tell me to stop?
Even during our lengthy march the day before, I'd never seen Hijikata mad. Maybe because his position as commander, he was afraid to express himself when his temper flared up, but it looked as if he reached his limit. Seriously, because it seems like he's always mad to me. Normally, he left the yelling to Nagakura and stayed patient when speaking with army officials. Okay, well that's a different matter. This time, however, he finally had enough.
I thought your job was to protect the Imperial estate, but you'd rather sit on your fat ass. We're here to stop those Choshu assholes from attacking. Tell me, what are the Choshu doing?
But, we haven't received any orders.
Hijikata was in no mood for excuses.
If you've got any kind of pride in your job, then forget your goddamn orders and move.
Without even waiting for a response, Hijikata spun around and stalked off, fuming. Where are we going? I didn't dare raise my voice above a whisper, but I asked Saito, who was walking near me.
To the enemy, which in this case means Hamagori Gate.
Hamagori Gate? You mean where Aizu's main force is protecting, right?
The battle at the gate is likely to be an intense one. You'd better prepare yourself.
All right. Hijikata's fury seemed to rouse the Aizu reserve, who up to this point seemed flustered by the threat of conflict, watching the Shinsengumi march. At the end, they followed the Shinsengumi to the Hamagori Gate, which is a mess. Before long, we'd arrived. Oh my gosh! The gate was pockmarked with scores of bullets, and everywhere dead and dying soldiers littered the ground. The acrid stink of firearms hung in the air. Even though I tried to prepare myself mentally for what lay before me, my heart shattered from the traces of war occurring ahead. The enemy, however, was nowhere to be seen. We had arrived too late. The battle was already over. After a moment of stunned silence, several of our men were dispatched by Hijikata to determine what happened. Then Kondo sighed.
What are the Choshu thinking? They raided the Imperial estate. I find it difficult to know what they're doing. How do they claim to be an Imperialist domain?
Kondo simply nodded. The Choshu defined themselves as among those who revered the Emperor, yet they attack his home? It didn't make sense to me either. Nevertheless, the damage was done. I was in the middle of pondering their reasons when Saito returned to me.
It appears the Choshu attacked Hamaguri in the early morning, but were repelled by the combined forces of the Aizu and Satsuma.
The forces standing against them were too much for the Choshu, who were forced to retreat. The corner of Hijikata's mouth curled into a grin.
So, Satsuma is helping Aizu now, are they? Times sure are changing. Considering their less than friendly past, it would seem the Choshu became their common foe.
The Satsuma and Aizu domains hadn't been on the best of terms. I thought that they outsmarted the family domain and allied with the imperial court to expel foreigners. However, I recall my father telling me that they were not much different than the Choshu. Unlike the Choshu, however, they'd gone to war with a foreign force and suffered a devastating loss. Following their defeat, I learned that the Satsuma began to recover their nationalistic stance. However, these were only rumors, and what had come to pass had yet to be fully determined.
Hijikata, supposedly there's still some of those Choshu bastards fighting over at the Kuge Gate.
Hijikata's expression changed as he considered Harada's words, but before he could open his mouth to speak, Yamazaki appeared. "About time, man, we need some Yamazaki action."
Commander, we believe the men who led this raid are headed for Mount Tenno.
Mount Tenno was located between Kyoto and Osaka. Supposedly, they're in the middle of escaping from Fushimi toward Osaka. After hearing the report from both Harada and Yamazaki, Hijikata contemplated deeply. Although Kondo was recognized as the formal head of the Shinsengumi, I learned from everyone that all major decisions were deferred to Hijikata. This was no exception, and I could see that all eyes were on him. He was silent for a few moments, and then I saw his mouth curve into a small smile.
Looks like our work's cut out for us, boys. Harada, take your men to Kuge Gate to deal with those Choshu bastards.
Sure thing, boss.
Saito, Yamazaki, I want you to figure out what the situation is here. Hold Hamagura Gate.
As you wish. Got it.
Your job's a tough one, Chief. I know this is a bitch, but I want you to speak with the Aizu bigwigs about a punitive expedition. So, punitive expedition for the Choshu, right? Some of those bastards are heading for Tenno, but others will run around and cause trouble. If we're going to go after them, then we'll need to leave Kyoto, and only you can get those papers.
The Shinsengumi were entrusted with the protection of Kyoto, and if this war was for aiding the Aizu, then they had to do more than just guard the gate. Leaving our post, however, to chase after the Choshu troops meant that we needed permission from the military commissioner, meaning the Aizu.
I see. If it's the chief of the Shinsengumi, the commissioner's office will listen to what we want.
After what we'd gone through the day before, I didn't imagine Kondo's task would be an easy one. Still, if the representative was anyone other than Kondo, the Aizu would be unlikely to grant the request, let alone entertain the notion of a meeting.
Gen, I want you to go with him. Somebody has to keep an eye on our chief, all right? Of course, I'll do my best, Commander.
Another laugh ran through the soldiers, and Kondo's mouth twisted into a wry sort of grin. Perhaps he chose not to deny it because he knew he might go a little crazy.
The rest of you are coming with me to Tenno. As for you...
He looked directly at me. I wasn't a warrior, nor did I have political ties. Hijikata didn't know what to do with me. Suddenly, I felt very much like dead weight.
You can't go with Kondo, but other than that, it's up to you.
Alright. Kondo was meeting with the leaders of the Aizu. If I joined him, there would be nothing for me. I had many options for what I could do. Hijikata would be pursuing the leaders of the Choshu attack toward Tenno Mountain. Saito would be staying at Hamagura Gate to protect it and to gather information. I forgot to mention that Yamazaki is as well. Harada and his men would be going to Kuge Gate to stop the attack on the Imperial Estate. The question was, where would I go? I would be going to Hamagura Gate, of course, to stick with Yamazaki. Start some bonding. I decided to remain at Hamagura Gate with Saito. Which is one less scene we're going to have when we do Saito's route. Before long, the rest of the Shinsengumi was gone, and it was time for us to begin our own mission.
First, we must speak with the Aizu on behalf of the Shinsengumi.
In all the excitement, I completely forgot that the Shinsengumi were ordered to stay with the reserves. Instead, we'd chosen to march to battle. Saito was probably right to try and smooth things over with the Aizu as soon as possible.
If you like, I can take care of that. I imagine recent events have thrown their commanders into confusion. They shouldn't impede us. Okay. Then I will leave that task to you, Yamazaki. Send word for me if you encounter any difficulty.
No, come back. Can I go with him? Yamazaki bowed once, then turned on his heel and disappeared. Darn it. The area near Hamagura Gate was filled with warriors. I could see some men from the Aizu domain, and perhaps some men from the Satsuma as well. They appeared to be arguing over something. We'd been looking around the area to get the lay of the land When we sensed something unpleasant and went to investigate, that was when we found the confrontation between the Aizu and the Satsuma. What are they arguing about?
I assume it's over who will take credit for this battle. How petty.
Shouldn't they both get credit since they were both there? Oh. The words were barely out of my mouth when one of the Satsuma men noticed us.
Wait, is that the Shinsengumi? Really? You know they're a bunch of filthy peasants, right?
Hear that, boys? The Aizu are too scared to fight, and they don't have some Ronin bums to back them up.
What? I could see the faces of the Shinsengumi stiffen, and more than one hand move toward a sword. Saito, however, was implacable as ever.
Ignore them. You have a job to do.
A true professional. He swept his cool gaze slowly over the men, looking each man in the eye. They shifted restlessly, but their hands dropped from their swords.
Hey, Satsuma, you son of a bitch.
How dare you mock us, Aizu?
His face was bright red, and his sword shook as he held it at the ready. If something wasn't done soon, that sword was likely to start spilling blood. Ah, Hamagiri! Before anyone from the Satsuma could respond, a tall man stepped through them and out into the space between the two factions.
What? You'll face me? Then taste my steel!
Oh, big mistake, buddy. With a yell, the soldier threw himself forward, raising his sword to anticipate a deadly cut. Saito dashed forward, almost too fast to see, and stopped before the charging man.
Stop. He's far too strong for you.
I apologize for the trouble we caused at the inn. I believe I had a duel with a boy named Toto. If his injury hasn't healed yet, please tell him that I apologize for not showing more restraint.
It was you who defeated Toto then. Yes, I suppose that would fit.
If Saito had even heard the man's apology, he showed no sign of it.
I imagine the Satsuma sent you to the inn as spies to learn what the Choshu were planning.
The man simply shrugged and tilted his head to the side, almost quizzically. Saito took a step toward him. Chill, dude. No need for that at the moment. Ah! The tip of Saito's sword was only a hair's breadth from the man's forehead. He drew it so fast I saw no blur of silver as it left the scabbard. Unperturbed, the man glanced down at Saito.
The Shinsengumi has some unfinished business with you. Maybe not today, but Toto will have his revenge.
Perhaps, but I have no reason to fight the Shinsengumi today.
He replied as calmly as if they had been enjoying tea together. Saito said nothing, and his sword did not move. Was Saito really that angry? I could certainly see why he would have been, but this was not the time to settle grudges. Still, he was a tough man to read. What was I to do? I am going to stop him. Because it's not his route yet, it's not time to trust him. Although I do trust him implicitly with all my heart. The stakes were too high. The risk wasn't worth it. I don't think this is a good time to fight. Saito kept his guard, but for a moment his eyes met mine, and in them I saw frustration and dejection. I understood how he felt, but the man he faced had hurt Heisuke badly. If they fought, the Shinsengumi wouldn't escape unharmed. He was a monster.
So, do you doubt my skill?
No, nobody does. I don't doubt your skill. However, I just don't think now is a good time to start something. There's a time and a place. It's not like I didn't trust Saito's swordsmanship, but I felt that he stood no chance against the tall man without risking his life.
From the first day I wore this sword, I have been prepared to lay down my life in battle.
Perhaps I should have kept silent. It didn't matter either way. The damage was done. I just didn't want Saito to die. I hung my head and heard Saito let out an exasperated sigh. Looking none too happy about it, he lowered his sword and sheathed it.
I have no interest in escalating this situation. Our goals are the same. However, we cannot overlook any further insults. If you persist, and the Aizu domain and the Shinsengumi will have no choice but to take action.
The tall man from the Satsuma nodded deeply.
It is true. Our speech and conduct was unbecoming. My apologies on behalf of the Satsuma domain.
The Satsuma men seemed displeased with how things turned out, but whoever the tall man was, None of them dared to speak out against him. Oh, perhaps Saito had been trying to force an apology from them, I realized. Of course there was no way for me to be sure. I couldn't imagine what went through his head.
I also hope to avoid a conflict. I am grateful to you for stepping down.
He bowed deeply.
My name is Kyuju Amagiri. I pray that we will be able to work together when next we meet.
Me too! He's an awesome guy to have on your side. His introduction finished, he turned and walked slowly back through the ranks of the Satsuma, towering above them as he went. Saito, you never intended to fight him, did you? There was a short silence. Saito looked coiled inside of himself, staring at the direction Amagiri walked toward before speaking.
I'd hoped that the display of my iai would be enough to dissuade him. But it seems he saw right through my ruse.
Huh? Saito practiced iai, a sword style that focused on drawing a blade and striking in a single stroke. Amagiri made no attempt to dodge his blow. How would he have known that Saito intended to stop just before the blow landed?
The Satsuma commands some very dangerous men. If they were not men of reason as well, we would already be dead.
I wasn't sure if Saito was talking to me or himself, and before I could ask, he turned and walked away. We returned to Hamaguri Gate to await Yamazaki's return, but there was little else to do. After that incident, there were no battles. However, the tension remained unabated. Was it possible for the Satsuma and Aizu to find a common ground and coexist peacefully? It seemed like imagining such a world would be an impossible dream. And this time I have to say I stepped out of line. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to trouble you at all. Please, forget I asked. He was right. It did come out of nowhere, and it wasn't like he had a lot of free time either. Oh, this is when I asked him to train me. To put it aside for someone not a part of the Shinsengumi, it was foolish.
Wait, I don't know why you want this, but when your face looks like that, I can't say no to you.
I'd guilt trip everybody in the Shinsengumi into everything. Huh?
I'll gladly train you. Well, so long as we don't go overboard and accidentally hurt you.
And we are on to Chapter 3. So we'll go ahead and stop this video here at the beginning of Chapter 3. Yamazaki had a few shared scenes with along Saito's route, so those took more time than I imagined. Maybe he will actually have 3 whole videos, or maybe a little bit more. I don't know. But yeah, apparently there's not a whole lot of his own exclusive materials, just like Sanin, because there hasn't been any scenes that have been exclusive to him yet so far. So, hope to see you in that next video. Find some actual stuff about Yamazaki, or I'd love to see you in some of my other ones. And I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye bye everybody.